Meet the brand new iPad Air. Yes, it's called the iPad Air, but essentially this is the iPad Air 3. And it comes out almost 5 years after the iPad Air 2 was released, so this is a pretty big upgrade in every single way. And I spent the past weekend with this, so here are my actual 72-hour impressions with the iPad Air 3. Also, that AirPods 2 giveaway is still going. Just be a subscriber to the channel, follow on Instagram, and leave a comment on this post saying why would you want to win a pair of the AirPods 2, and I'll be announcing the winner on April the 23rd. Okay, so one of the main features that Apple added to the iPad Air 3, as well as the iPad Mini 5, which I talked about in this video, is support for the Apple Pencil. So that's pretty cool. However, what's not so cool about this is that they still use the first generation Apple Pencil and not the second gen one that we got with the iPad Pro, and then whenever you draw or write with the Apple Pencil on the iPad's display, it still feels like writing on a glass window. But luckily, this can indeed be fixed with Paperlike, our sponsor for this video. Paperlike turns your iPad's display into something that actually feels like real paper, so you can be far more accurate with your drawings and notes, and as a bonus, it also sounds like real paper whenever you're drawing or writing on it. Use the link in the description or the coupon code ZONE10 for a 10% discount when buying Paperlike. And thanks again to Paperlike for being a sponsor of this video. Okay, so the iPad Air 3 is pretty much a much more trimmed down version of the iPad Pro 10.5 inch from 2017, which I believe is a really good thing. But obviously there's a few changes between them and a few upgrades, so here's a few interesting things that I've noticed with the iPad Air 3. So the first one being the box. While the thickness of the box itself is identical to the 2017 iPad Pro's box, the iPad Air only has an image of the side of the iPad on the front of the box versus a full image of the front of the iPad like the 2017 iPad Pro's box had. A really small change, but I do like the iPad Pro's box more than the iPad Air's. You know, considering that the iPad Pro was almost double the cost of the Air when it launched, I really don't mind the slight downgrade. On the sides we have the name of the iPad, same as before, an Apple logo on the top and bottom, same as before, which do actually match the color of the iPad that you got inside, and the backs are pretty much identical as well. And when it comes to the accessories, we get the same ones as before, so USB-A to lightning cable and the power brick. Okay, so taking a look at the actual iPad Air, when I opened up the box, I was surprised in a good way. So this thing looks identical to the 2017 iPad Pro, which itself was a very good looking tablet. I mean, the only thing that I've changed from the front at least is the edge. So the edge is now matte instead of being that shiny chamfered edge, but aside from that, literally zero changes from the iPad Pro. Now, once I got to actually use the iPad, it did feel a lot like my 2017 iPad Pro. So the display itself, even though it's 500 nits versus 600 on the Pro, so it is a bit dimmer, but to be honest, it looked almost identical to the Pro. The colors were very vibrant thanks to that DCI-P3 color space. The True Tone display made reading a pleasure, so yeah, overall the display was pretty much as good as the 2017 iPad Pro. However, there was something that this thing lacks and that I've noticed straight away, and that was the lack of ProMotion. No ProMotion on the iPad Air 3. The 2017 iPad Pro was actually Apple's first device that introduced this. Essentially, the refresh rate of the display can dynamically adjust in real time based on the content that you're watching. So it can actually go up to 120 Hz. So in that case, everything feels twice as fluid as it does on any other Apple device. Honestly guys, it's an amazing experience, and pretty much like the Retina displays were back on the iPhone 4, once you start using a ProMotion display, it's really hard going back to a normal one. And yes, the iPad Air 3 is a noticeable downgrade in this regard. However, if you haven't really used the 2017 or 2018 iPad Pro, then honestly the Air is still an amazing choice, and you wouldn't even notice the difference, or the lack at least, of a ProMotion display if you haven't seen one in the first place. Now, performance-wise, same as the Mini 5, the iPad Air 3 does come with the Apple A12 processor, which is actually the same CPU as found in the much more expensive iPhone XR, iPhone XS, and the iPhone XS Max. So this means that you get the highest level of performance that Apple has to offer for most of 2019. So yeah, the Air 3 should last you for quite some time, quite a number of years, considering that the iPad Air 2, which came out in 2014, so 5 years ago, is still fully supported by Apple OS-wise in 2019, 5 years later. So that's impressive, so expect this one to last at least 5 years. And when it comes to everyday performance, this thing is crazy fluid. I haven't really noticed any lag on this whatsoever. It does feel slower than the 10.5-inch iPad Pro 2017 because of the lack of ProMotion, but I mean, other than that, if you're coming from a non-Pro iPad, this thing even feels faster than, yes, my iPhone XS Max does. The iPad Air also comes with a smart connector, which up until now, it was an exclusive feature to the iPad Pros. So if you have a smart keyboard, you can use it with this, you can buy a new one. Also, the iPad Pro 10.5-inch was actually the first iPad to feature a full-size software keyboard and the physical keyboard. So the Air also gets that from the 10.5-inch iPad Pro. So if you do a lot of typing, this is going to be a very nice upgrade coming from a previous gen iPad with a smaller display. Other than that, the speakers were still pretty good. Not as good as the iPad Pros, which come with quad speakers, but still good for most people. And finally, when it comes to the Apple Pencil, I did mention it briefly before, and it does support a first generation Apple Pencil, which is cool. The drawing experience is pretty good for the most part, but the lack of a Pro Motion display is quite noticeable. So writing and drawing on this feels a bit laggy and, not as fluid as the iPad Pro. But hey, if you only do some, occasional note-taking and a few drawings here and there, nothing more serious than that, it's more than good enough for that. Okay, so in the end, the iPad Air 3 is actually a really, really good device. It has almost the same features as the 2017 iPad Pro. It does lack the 120Hz ProMotion display, the quad speakers, and the more advanced camera with an LED flash that we got with the iPad Pro. But I mean, aside from this, it's got all the features of the iPad Pro plus the Apple A12 processor, which is even more powerful, CPU-wise at least, than the A10X that's inside the 2017 iPad Pro. It's honestly a great tablet, and overall from Apple's current lineup of tablets, and even from all the other tablets out there, this is actually the best one to get. And that's by a huge margin. But yeah, let me know in the comments what do you guys think of the iPad Air 3. Also, we'll be doing a new video next week comparing the iPad Air 3 in depth to the iPad Pro 10.5-inch, because you can actually get the iPad Pro 10.5-inch significantly cheaper now. So in some ways, it's worth getting the iPad Pro. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about the iPad Air 3 if you plan on getting one. The AirPods 2 giveaway, like I said before, is still going. Just be a subscriber of the channel, follow on Instagram at ZenofTech, and then leave a comment on this post with the AirPods saying why would you want to win a pair of AirPods 2 with a wireless charging case, and I'll be announcing the winner on Instagram via DM and story on April the 23rd. If you want to watch my first 72-hour experience with the iPad Mini 5, definitely watch this video. And yeah, this has been pretty much it for this one. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZenofTech, signing out. Cheers.